everyone. I am going live today with my friend and fellow vocal coach and performance coach, Melissa V. Cartwright. And as soon as she pops in here, I will let her on and let her tell you more about herself. We're going to talk today about authenticity as an artist. And sent a request. Hello, Melissa. And actually, let me just let her in now. It's a big topic, and I'll keep chatting once she jumps on. Hi.
Hello. Hello.
How are you?
I'm so good. I always have to adjust when you're the guest or the host, sometimes.
I know. What part of my head is going to be cut off?
Exactly. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And I know I already messaged you this, but I just feel like we need to take a moment and say your hair. Gorge today. Looking so good.
Thank you. I was telling you, wash day just for you, girl. Wash day just for you with the curls.
Love it. Well, I was just starting to just kind of talk a little bit about what you and I are going to talk about. And, that authenticity as an artist. And when you and I were talking earlier, I know all of us, myself included, years ago, the tagline for Nashville Vocal Studio was "Find Your Voice." And we have this whole, find your voice, be true to it, your true self, your authentic self, your unique sound. And what I know we hear from artists all the time is like, cool, how do you do that? So I'd love to jump into it, but I'd love first if you can just share a little bit about you.
Yes, thank you. I'm with you there because that's when you and I were speaking earlier, this is kind of like our bread and butter in terms of the kind of artists that are core artists that we're working with. And so I've been on a personal journey with this myself, which is why I'm so excited to talk today. But yeah, Melissa V. Cartwright. I'm the owner and vocal coach of MVC Performance, where we offer voice and performance coaching. Home base is Newport News, Virginia, but we work with singers all over the world, teens and adults specifically. And we do everything from work on vocal technique to audition prep, stage presence, songwriting training, and everything in between. And really where our core is, we want you to sing the music that you love. We want you to do it well. And from a vocal health standpoint, we want you to do it for a long time. And so that's what we do. I live in Newport News, as I mentioned, with my husband and my 2 daughters and our dog Tempo, appropriately named for a musical family.
So cute. Where's Newport News?
Newport News is Eastern Coastal Virginia. We're about 45 minutes north of Virginia Beach and about 2 hours south of DC.
Virginia Beach is so beautiful. I have family in Virginia, so we get to go up there sometimes and visit them, and man, the area you're in is so lovely.
Yeah, we're about 10-15 minutes away from the water, and I really can't imagine living anywhere where there wasn't water or a beach close by. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, so I'm an island girl at heart, so that definitely feeds my soul.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, Quasi. Well, I'm originally from Missouri. So literally as far away from water as you can get in every direction. I'm originally Midwestern. And so when I live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but having the ocean like a 6.5 to 7, depending on how much you have to stop, hour drive away, feels like, it's just a hop and a skip, but 15 minutes.
Of course it is.
I know we'll have to get on our topic, but it makes me want to wipe a tear.
Well, girl, if next time you're visiting family in Virginia, call me. We'll take you to the beach.
Well, let's jump in. I know, like we were saying, Melissa and I jumped on and were chatting earlier because we both had been following each other and kind of creeping each other's content for a long time. And we just got to chatting, and like nearly an hour into it, we were like, okay, let's actually refocus on kind of what we initially wanted to chat about that's work related. So before we do that, which I can have a tendency to do, let's jump in. Let's jump into the topic. And you tell me, Melissa, where do you think where would you like to start as far as, 'cause, you know, it's such a, like I said, part of it is first kind of figuring out what do you want to be as an artist? How do you want to express yourself? You know, how do you really want to be represented? I mean, I know that's a struggle for a whole lot of folks. And then once you decide that, then it's, okay, how do I take this and make it successful or utilize it, really do something with it?
Yes. I mean, even as I was thinking through our thoughts today, I'm like, gosh, I really hope I don't come across like I'm at a pulpit, because I just believe in this so much. But I was telling you, I want to give a quick disclaimer, even though I'm not a fan of them, but it'll help us understand who we're speaking with today. So this is not necessarily for the artist who uses an avatar as their artist. But what I mean by that is like a Sia with the wig over the eyes, you know, or like you've already decided as a singing artist that you are going to use this character, and that is your art. So that's a fascinating conversation to have at another time. So who we're talking to today is really the person that sees their singing, their voice, their songs, their music as an extension of themselves. And so I need to credit the way we're going to go about this to Allie Tyler from the Aligned Voice Teaching Group, who just she threw out 3 terms that seem so simple, but really it's like, aha, that's exactly what we're talking about. So I'm going to break it down to talk about, okay, how are we authentic in our mindset? How are we authentic in our voice technique? And how are we authentic with our complete artistry, right? The title of what we're talking about today.
And if you, as an interject, one, Michelle from Speakeasy said Sasha Fierce, which totally, and just to kind of, off of your disclaimer, totally agree with you. Because when you and I were talking about that, we kind of made that distinction. Also, when you choose that persona, that is you've already made your decision. You've already found kind of, this is my unique expression. And this is how I want to do it. I kind of want to have those separated a little bit. So you're right. Yeah. And Gracie, the coach, said that's a great, good authenticity explanation. So you're right. We are really talking about those people who are, you know, those singer-songwriters or who are thinking, I really want this to represent who I am as a person. So both are great and valid, but like you said, they're different approaches and different conversations.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. So now that we've that's beautiful. And I'm glad that you expounded on that. And I'm glad that this is resonating even with our folks tuning in. So, okay, we made a decision. I'm not going to be that artist. I'm going to be me. Me. And so this conversation keeps coming up about everything that's transpired for the professional artist over the course of the last 2 years, right? We went through a season where everything was stripped away, especially if you perform publicly, and then slowly started coming back. Well, in that, what I like to refer to the wilderness season, you know, we kind of had to ask ourselves, who am I without my music? Who am I now that what do I do with myself? You know, and it was probably not a very fun place to be, obviously, kind of faced with maybe our own insecurities. And I have a loved one who said, you know what these 2 years did? Anything that was already bubbling up to the surface, it just brought it up quicker and forced us to deal with it, you know? So there's a lot of conversations in our community talking about vocal mindset, mental health for artists. So lean into that, my friends, lean into that. And I want to ask you that question. Who are you without your music? Heaven forbid anything were to happen that where you could not sing anymore or you could not play an instrument anymore. But you do have to put yourself in a position to ask yourself that question. Because if you are only wrapped up in what you do and that gets stripped away from you, of course you're going to be lost. Of course you're going to go through a season of depression and not realizing, like, what do I do with myself? You know? So I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just being real, like very, very real. You've got to ask yourself those hard questions as a starting point to where you want to go. No,
you're totally right. And I will say, if anybody else is along with me, that just gives me like shivers and a little bit of like, oh, because all of us obviously that do this, that do this to some, whatever degree that is, but do this as their profession or as a focused way to just make their life better, make our lives better. It's an important part of us. Our voice, what we create, it's such, it's so intertwined with who we are. But don't you feel like anybody, our voice, speaking, singing, whatever it is a huge representation of who we are. And so what I kind of hear you saying is like your voice and your voice are not necessarily the same thing. Your performance art and who you are as a person and what you have to contribute, you have to be able to see those as separate and how they work together.
It seems paradoxical here at first to be like, well, I'm talking about trying to be an extension of myself, but here's the reason why. Because if you can come to a place of fulfillment with yourself, contentment with yourself and who you are, that's not 100% wrapped up in your art. Yeah. You will, if you want a family, if all these other things or pieces of your life make up who you are, you know what I mean? You'll be able to compartmentalize in a healthy way so that you can, how often, do we talk about work-life balance? All the freaking time. And there's a reason for that, because when people were home working, they're like, oh, okay, this is what I was missing out on. There's a reason, right? And so if you can come to that place of peace with yourself, where you can't, for a moment, you can put the art, the voice in a box for just a second, then I would say it helps you discern that when there is crap going on in your life, and all of a sudden you walk into a voice lesson and your teacher says, what's up? Tell me how your day was. Because again, it is an extension of you in that regard. And then you can say, it was an awful day. This thing happened. Or you know what? I'm so excited about this. And we can hear that in the voice too. Not just all the sad feelings, but the happiness and the joy as well. So that's all wonderful. I mean, a lot of times what I say to my artists that you said far more eloquently, but is kind of think about not just when you're trying to decide how I want to pursue things as an artist and how am I authentic. You also need to kind of first start with, what kind of life do I want to live? Yes. Yeah. Because that was something as I don't know about you, but I'm going to guess not, because you and I are kind of around the same age. And so we're, getting our voice training early on at the same time. And no one ever said to me, I was so singularly focused in my early 20s. Just artist career. Moved to Nashville. Hey, would you write for this artist? No. This tunnel vision. But yet if somebody would have asked me, I would have always said, oh, I for sure want kids. Oh, and I also so do you can't wait to live on a bus and travel. And I like to travel, but I really like to be home at night. Well, all of a sudden, those aren't aligning the same, which would mean you have a different focus. So I think that's so important. Oh no, for sure. Absolutely. And so you're like, okay, so but how do I do this kind of work? Well, thankfully there's so many resources out there right now for mental health, and please hear me. There doesn't have to necessarily be something wrong for you to talk to somebody professional. They can just talk to them about these career, desires that you have. They can help you sort it out. In addition to things like the Enneagram, or find yourself a mentor, ask your vocal coach. They have resources as well to point you in that direction. Because as often as these kinds of things do come up in our lessons, right? We're not licensed specialists in this, so we can, send you to people who are. And so that's a good segue then, because we talked about how you can be in a performance setting and whatever is going on in the day, we can probably hear, or it'll come out in your singing, right? And so when we start talking about, okay, all right, so I've got my brain in check, or I'm working on that, and now, okay, how do I do this in my technique, in my training, in the nitty gritty of it? And you've been sharing this. I've been sharing that. A lot of colleagues have been talking about being body intuitive enough to work on things that actually feel good, you know? And that may sound so 101, but we should never forget that singing, training, performing should physically feel good, right? You know, and if it causes tension or pain, and you know,
you're probably going the wrong route.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think the body, the mind, the voice, they all they are so integrated. So obviously we would love to be able to separate sometimes one from the other, but you know, they all need each other and work within each other. And I think, oh my gosh, I went to say that and I had a really great point. This is so sad. Oh my God, I've had a sick kid and completely going off and had not been sleeping a ton. I'm like, I just lost my fantastic point I was going to make. What was it? Oh my gosh, Melissa, talk and then it'll pop back into my brain.
Totally interrupt me when it comes back. No,
so mom brain.
But
yes, talk about work-life balance.
Perfect example. Yes. No, I would also venture to say, like, in the spirit of honesty, share with your mentor, your trainer, your coach, what you really enjoy singing. And if you've never taken inventory of that, I love doing this with my singers because there are like the goal songs, you know, like everybody's doing this. I've always wanted to try this Olivia song. I've always wanted to try that song and that song. But I'm like, but why do you like it? It can be as simple as I've always wanted to try it. It's fun. It makes me get up and dance or whatever.
Or it's technically challenging.
Exactly.
Which can be great for training. Yeah.
Exactly. And you can even start there and get in the process and realize, this is not me. And so I say all those things to be playful, you know, be playful and experiment with all those different genres. And then ask yourself, you know, okay, there are the songs that I sing that are just cathartic and they just feel good to sing. And then what would I actually envision myself putting on a set list for my gig, you know?
Yeah.
And
totally.
all of it is valid. All of it is valid.
Yeah. Well, my thought that I had, and then it flew away, it came back.
Good.
And all I was going to say, and it ties into this, is when you talked about, I know, how embarrassing, but yet like, talk about keeping it authenticity. Yeah, I'm like, my brain is here, but it's like not like 100% fully functioning. I was just going to say how, you know, the mind, the body, the voice, they're so integrated. And you talked about singing songs, doing things that feel good in the mind, the body, and the voice. And I was just going to say, they tell on each other too.
Ooh,
so you know what I mean?
Do.
So if your voice can sometimes be an indicator, if you haven't even acknowledged something is going on emotionally, or if there's a physical issue that you're not even aware of yet. Sometimes the voice is the first, it's that Friday brain. Thank you, Tracy. Bless, yes. Friday brain, that's what I'm blaming it on. Sometimes the voice is the first one to tell you that. So I think exactly what you said, your body, your voice, your mind will all start to tell you like, man, I feel so good when I finish this. Like, I feel like I feel like me. I feel, it's, you know, it feels authentic. And I think those experiences where you feel like you should do it, but it finishes and you're like, wow, I should have loved that. And I didn't, or it didn't feel that great, or it felt more, I was in my head. I think you hit the nail on the head. That's telling. Listen to that.
Yes, absolutely. And go ahead.
Oh, no, you're so good. And, I'm looking at a couple of things. Yeah, the vocalist in training said, I've always said our thoughts determine our voices. Amen, sister. They tell on each other. I'm going to start using that.
Yeah, that's a real, like, write it down.
Yes. Well,
really
and I, again, just succinctly kind of, you know, what you said so beautifully before, when I kind of summarize that, I say, think about the life you want to live. And with this, I think, you know, what I hear that you're saying and how I feel about it is really think about the stories you want to tell.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, what do you want to, are you a person that wants to like the cathartic thing is core to who you are and you want to give that to other people? Or are you a person that like, you like that stuff, but that feels like okay, it's a little too much for me. I want to bring light and joy and to times that are dark. You know, you kind of have to think about. I think that when you think about those two things, what kind of life do I want to live? What kind of stories do I want to tell? We're really getting down to exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
actually you beautifully presented like the third component of taking, I like to think of these two things as an equation, like mindset plus technique equals the artistry, right? And so when you're able to put all those components together, like you said, here's the importance of telling your story. When you believe it, I really do think that translates to your audience being invested in your performance, right? Because even the technique you're working on within the voice and also as part of your stage presence is going to shine through. And that's what I like to call where the audience leans in. It becomes like, oh, she's cute. Oh, wait. Oh, that's me. I can relate to that. And that, I think
it's the
that's
goosebumps thing where somebody singing. My person is, I totally interrupted you too. I apologize.
No, that's okay.
Brandy Carlisle. I don't know if you know who she is, but yes, technically.
My story. Oh my gosh.
Technically, she's a queen.
Yeah.
You know, she's amazing. But yet I always tell singers who are working like for that level of technique, that is not why I go to her shows. And it's such a like moving experience. And she sounds like she is so soulfully connected. And I mean, I'm going to assume she is. I would believe she is. If she wasn't, I'd be shocked. From her toes to the tips of her hair. That's what, if she didn't have the technique, yes, it wouldn't be as impressive. But the technique supports that just authenticity that comes through, that just like, you know, you immediately feel like, we're all human beings. You know, we all have these feelings. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And there's just something to be said about the confidence boost that you get from that. And listen, if you've already made the decision to be a performing artist, no matter which kind you are, you've already chosen a path that is hard because of the level of critique that you do get. This is why it's so important for you to be grounded in these components, because you cannot just float and flow based on whatever feedback you get. And I kind of wanted to throw this as I was kind of putting this together. Again, in the spirit of authenticity. Sometimes in the spirit of authenticity, we mean well, right? Sometimes I'll throw up an Insta story and kind of poll people and say, oh, what do you think about this? But for the love, please don't poll your audience for every single artistic decision that you want to make, you know? Like, I kind of like, oh, honey, just pick a song, you know? And so I say that to encourage people to, if you've done the good, hard heart and brain work, and you are in the process of doing the good voice stage work, you got to trust the equation. You got to trust the equation, you know? And I mean, please hear me. There's a difference between that and also being in a good headspace where you can receive constructive criticism. You've got to be able to in this industry, but don't let everybody else's feedback drive the ship. You know, you have to be in charge. You know, I love my voice students that are like, no, not really. I don't like that. I remember baby voice teacher Melissa would have gotten her feelings hurt, and now I'm like, okay, honey, talk to me. Why are you not connecting? You know, and so I love that. Just own it. Own it.
No, I think if I could put a little, I was like, I wish we had a little pop-up to be like, remember this. I think what you just said is probably the most important thing from all this, which I'm so glad we went through the pieces, because a lot of times people are like we said, how do you find it? How do you develop it? And then why even have this conversation? And you said it so well, and now I'm going to use this, is you're right. We are in an industry where trends ebb and flow. You might have great success and then people just rip you apart on the next album. Or you might be struggling, but you feel like you believe so much in what you are doing, and And when you are grounded in that belief in what you're doing, and like you said, you keep steering the ship towards that place that feels good, the best to you. It aligns with who you are. This is the life I want to live. These are the stories I want to tell. You can weather any of that. And it's when you are that person who looks to that feedback, you said that so beautifully, your ship, get ready for it to be tossed around so much that you are going to quickly realize, I'm way too seasick for this stuff. Just to keep, you know what I mean? Just to keep rolling with that analogy. But it's not going to be a happy place.
It's not. And I think it will lead to the burnout.
Said.
Yeah, it will lead to the burnout of the artist much sooner, unfortunately, you know, and then that's, you know, I'll see the posts from the people, from the artists, fellow artists who try to poll for every single decision. And within a week, guys, I'm taking an Instagram break, you know, like no judgment.
Yes.
But then I think,
no,
well, of course you are.
Yeah.
Because what you've just been doing is exhausting, you know?
Yeah.
And so I say that with all the love in my heart, you know, just of, you know, you're doing
you can't
good
please
work.
everybody.
Yeah, you're can't please everybody. And when you're alone in that dressing room, in the green room, on the car ride home from the corner of the street with your guitar case open, you know, you have no one else but you and your thoughts on that drive home. And I think at the end of the day, if you can do that, even if there was a disappointment with the gig in itself, if you can drive home to yourself, to your cat, to your family, with that peace of mind that you didn't sacrifice your integrity, I think that's the biggest win for everyone.
You need a
And now we're going to play Amazing Grace for the altar call.
No, but that's so important. And it's not just how to find it and develop it, but you cued into like the chorus, like, this is why it's so important. And right, it's not just, I mean, we can do it in every way. You can do it in, let's say you're authentic to yourself as an artist, but then you're thinking, okay, you know, especially with COVID, so many from voice professionals like us to artists themselves have realized how an online presence is so important. And then it's like, this is what I feel comfortable with. This is this is how representative of how I am, what I believe, who I am as a person, what I'm passionate about. But it's not really trending. These are the trends. And so it comes down to how much do you know, it's the people, I think, who, you're exactly right, jump on all those and think, okay, this is going to be what pushes me there. And then I'll pull back. I get that to a degree, and we all have to balance that.
Sure.
But I think you're a lot happier if you're like, I'm just going to keep being authentic and hope I find my people where it resonates.
Absolutely.
And I think you will. You know?
Amen, sister. Amen.
Yes. I need a fan or something.
Thank you. Right?
No, that was so great. I remember you saying something earlier, like it's good to have a hobby other than singing. This really resonates with me. I practice singing an hour and a half, 5 days a week, and do guitar, but I honestly don't have many other skills. Time to take up painting or cooking or something for whatever. Yes.
I highly recommend, if you haven't read yet, the Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I've been slowly working my way through that. Is a good resource in terms of being able to like even fast a day from anything artistic, you know, and you'll be amazed how your brain opens up and how it's like all the creativity will come, so that when you do come back to your practice or whatever, it's like you can't write stuff down fast enough, right? Because you gave yourself mental, emotional, physical, time-wise space for all that stuff to happen. Yeah. So I love that you said that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of creativity happens, right? Is to really be creative, or songwriters, you have to have space for that. I love the Artist's Way, and I've just been working on adding to our website. So we've always had like a shop feature for workshops and all that kind of stuff, but where we're linking books and resources like that, because
Ooh.
this has been such a topic. So, An Artist's Way is on there because it's a great one. Another one that I just recently reread, and I think it's so great, it's Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Have you read that one before?
Oh, no, I haven't. I'm writing it down.
Girl, and it's only like, you can get it for like $8 now. It's because it's been out forever. But what I love about it is it gets you it's so inspiring. But the whole thing is not about creativity for the professional artist in XYZ genre. It's that creativity is putting a meal together. Like, vocalist and Train mentioned cooking, or we're creative in so many ways. And it's really recognizing that and how to tap into that. So maybe you take a break from the singing space or the music space for a bit, and go utilize that creativity in some other areas, and they all just feed each other.
They really do.
It's really inspiring.
Yeah, balance.
Totally.
And guess what? Maybe you'll be inspired by your cooking, and you'll write a song about your cooking.
Is the cooking coming up because we're getting close to lunch? Because I'm like,
if you could only hear my tummy,
yeah, mine too. Yeah. Thank you so much, Melissa, for jumping on and chatting today, and all this stuff that we're speaking of. Total side note, that's one of the reasons why you and I connected. Is I feel like you come across in what you do and the things that you share online and the resources that you share, and incredibly authentic and really joyful about what you're doing and passionate about what you're doing. And as we know, that doesn't mean that there aren't those things. We all have those same struggles where we have that day where we go, should I be doing this? Should I? But you give off that vibe so much. And I think when people give that off, you create a space where other people feel like they can be authentic as well. So, very true.
So thank you so much. That
Yes.
My heart's like,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Completely
I really appreciate
true.
that.
Loved it. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. And
Thank you.
we'll have to do it again sometime.
Yes.